Buy, deliver with the two-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.
Three, two, one, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 73, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Sat opposite the lovely Dom the Bomb Herbertson. How are we doing?
Oh, grand, and opposite me, the world's sexiest maths teacher. I tell you what, I don't think I've introduced you since... How long has it been since... I think you went off being sexy, to be fair. I think you just dropped off the cliff. It's all this stress from racing, son, so there we go. So what have you been on with, young'un? What have you been on... Well, you've had a busy weekend, but we'll get into that later in the show. But bar that, what have you been up to?
Well, obviously, we've just came back from Donington, which was the penultimate round of the BSB, which we'll get on to, and we've got an interview that we did when we were down there. We got rained off on Saturday, so we've got a little bit of a podcast done, but that's coming up later. And other than that, just, obviously racing at the weekend, busy weekend, and other than that, just work, just the usual, really. But I tell you what, I had a good weekend the weekend before down at Towlaw, watching someone...
Towlaw, that is the poshest that's ever been introduced to in me damn life. There we go. It's Towlaw, man. Filled with radgies and greatness. So what was entertaining about it for you?
No, the last podcast we did, you were talking about making your motocross debut, and I think it was the following day, wasn't it? We went down to Towlaw. Oh. Do you want to give the listeners, how did you get on?
Well, put it this way: I left here, this studio, being all confident, going, all right, I've got my wheelbarrow for all my trophies there. Put it this way, Chrissy, thank God I kept the bloody receipts, mind. Because, my God, I am crap at motocross. I mean, biblically crap at it. Sugar Tits and Sugar Cube there, and lovely Gem she was looking after. I was literally full factory.
It is harder than it looks, isn't it?
Harder than it looks. It's just a total different animal altogether, and it was brilliant fun. Absolutely loved every second of it. But my God, I was walking like I did 4 years in Franklin. I was getting hounded around like a pack of tabs, I swear, my life.
I mean, I came down to watch, and it got called off for a little bit because I think there was quite a serious crash, and it was
that was in the B race, that.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, there was a good few hours in the middle of the day with no action, wasn't it?
We have to get her name, because she was leading the B race by a country mile, and she came over one of the tabletops at the back, but I think she actually had a flat tyre when she was gone for the takeoff, and it's just kicked her out the seat. But it was like a big 40-50 foot tabletop, and she's just absolutely landed clean on her hip and bust her hip or pelvis anyway, so somewhere around the bone era. And bless her, she had to wait 3 to 4, was it 3 hours or 4 hours? I think it was nearly 4 hours she had to wait to get another ambulance to swap, so all the racing had to stop, which was a damn shame, because it was just... but I couldn't take me thoughts off her, thinking 3-4 hours they must have had her absolutely dribbling on the drugs, just to keep her her sane.
I hope she's okay anyway. And but when I came down, I didn't actually see any action, but I left Gemma with the video cameras that we use for things, so we've got a little bit of a video coming up for the YouTube channel. But to be fair, mate, I know you're saying you're playing it down, but you did actually, for your first ever motocross race, you did do a good job. And before you crashed, so it ended in the C race, there was a good sort of 30 riders, and before you crashed, you were up to about 5th or 6th, and did you bring home a 12th or something like that?
Something like that. But my God, I tell you, the thing is, what was surreal about it? Crashing. Because normally in our game, you crash, it's game over, isn't it? The bike's parked up, you go home, and you got a face on you like a slapped arse. But motocross, I came around this top row. I think I got up to 5th place. And I'm like, I could see the lads in front of them going, I'm gonna get some portions dished out here, and came round to hit this rut totally incorrectly, and I headbutted the floor, like fully smacked the floor. I've got bruises up and down my left arm, and I picked the bike up and went, wait a minute, I'm allowed to carry on. So anyway, fired up the old bike and carried on going. And what I'm over the moon with is that I didn't knack your bike.
Well, thank you for that.
No, thank you for that, because I'm just thinking, normally, that's the difference. It's, to be blunt, if I would any sort of road racing bike, yourself, if you just got it off the paddock stands and let go of it, you're talking potentially up to £1,000 worth of damage. Mm-hmm. Well, more than a paddock stand drop, let's say. But even a slow... What's the slowest corner in this country in short circuit racing?
So like
There's a question for you.
Mallory or somewhere like... yeah, probably hairpin at Mallory.
On the British calendar. Now I'm just testing you, Chrissy. Now I'm just testing you.
Hairpin and Cadwell Park's pretty slow, I would say.
Aye, so when you think, if you're going into that and you just drop the front, you're talking fairings, clip-on, brake lever, clutch lever potentially, an exhaust pipe, you're talking a serious amount of money. There's me chucking your bike clean up the dirt track there, and it was absolutely fine, and which is brilliant. But I tell you what, the body punishment it took, and I think we've talked about it and we've touched about it a bit on the podcast, but it is a different discipline, and them lads running at the front, it is something else.
So what's your take? Is it something that you feel like you want to get more into, or do you see it as, with the injury side of things, do you see that it's too much of a risk, or what's your take on it?
I want to do it again. I'm desperate to go racing again. Thing is, I think a lot of our listeners who are thinking about getting into racing, it's one of them situations that will ruin you. Because let's be honest, Chris, how much enjoyment do you get out of a track day?
I really enjoy it, but
that was a shit answer. No, but
I
so
feel you want us to say I don't enjoy it, but I do really enjoy track
fair
days.
Enough. I'm putting words in your mouth there. So no, like a track day for me, like you just don't have the fight, and I feel like if I dropped in on a track day, I've gained nothing. I don't push as hard on a track day. But saying that, you just get on the track and you just go, don't you? It just doesn't change your mindset. Can you do the same lap times at BSB, like on a track day, that you do at a BSB?
I probably could, but the track's never like in as good condition. There's not at BSB. There's medics on every corner. There's lots more traffic on a track day. But pretty close.
All right, that's interesting. That's interesting to hear. But no, it's like, there's me. Like if I went to like a schoolhouse, like which is up here, yes, I would go out and enjoy it. But the thing about racing is, to me, it matters. Do you feel like you get a bit more of a chomp on, you push a bit harder, the adrenaline's a lot higher, and for me, that's where the enjoyment is. So now that I've done a bit of racing, I've gone and ruined myself. So I'm desperate to start going racing in motocross rather than just going out and tarting on now and then.
And have you got any other races coming up, or is that?
Hopefully, I'm going to have a word with my crew chief, Sugar Tits, there, and see what we can sort out. But there we go, man. There we go. But yeah. So I tell you what, we actually haven't lined up what we've got on the show coming up there, Chrissy. So
yeah, so when we were down at Donington at the weekend, we actually got rained off on the Saturday, so went down a couple of garages.
It was bad though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, a couple of garages down the road from where I was, and a couple of lads we've been wanting to get on the podcast for a while. Two lads from New Zealand, so Damon, Rees and Shane Richardson. They've both, over the last 2 years, have came over from New Zealand purely to race in the British Superbike Championship, and they're actually teammates for racing for James Jackson on the Astro BMW, I think it is, JJR BMW in Superstock, and both, especially Damo having a very impressive debut season on the 1000.
But it's the first time Shane's been on the 1000, though, isn't it?
No, I think it was.
Well, listen, you'll find out in the interview anyway.
But yes, I mean, speaking of the weekend, obviously you came down. Did you enjoy yourself?
It was a bit of a pressure cooker situation. Obviously, with there was a lot on the line for you. There was a lot of line for. You could definitely feel we were coming to the end of the season throughout the paddock, because you could just feel that dynamic change. People did wrap up their championships, people had the opportunities, and people had to fight, and you could see with the results, mind, it was phenomenal. Like Rory Skinner there, he wrapped up the 600 championship, which is fantastic. Brad Jones was giving him a right good run, and personally my favourite, Lee Johnson, he takes a piss out of himself openly, but he's a hell of a short circuit rider to be able to run up with them. And like Bradley Perry, unfortunately, his engine, with the lack of a better term, shit itself. I think there's photos on his Facebook page if you want to go have a look at that. It, like a piston melted, I think.
I don't know if you caught the Supersport race on the Saturday, but that was an absolute crash fest. Hardly anyone stayed on. Westy ended up getting the win by like 20 seconds or something to James Rose and Bradley Perry, but Lee Johnson rode a fantastic race. Unfortunately crashed on the last lap, big high side, I think it was going in, or maybe just on the crack of the throttle.
Because he was leading it. He was leading it for 3-4 laps of that.
Yeah, a lot. And Rory Skinner was leading at the start. He crashed, coming out the old hairpin high-sided. Brad Jones crashed. Lee Johnson crashed. There was loads of them went down. But but yeah, entertaining race.
Because like Donington Park, you've said it loads of times. It's it can be horrendously unforgiving at some points. But when you look at your track time, you could tell that the weather was actually making it better. The track almost seemed to be getting a wash because your times in stock 1,000, everyone was banging around like 53s kind of thing, and then free practice in the morning. People went to the 49s, and in the race you were getting down into like, I think Billy McConnell set the fastest lap at a 45 I think it was a 45, me watching anyway. Mm-hmm. You think that's a huge jump from 53 to 45.
At 43, I think 43.9, I think he did.
It actually got down to that.
I was in the 44s, I think, yeah.
Oh, there we go then. So it got down to the 43s. That is a huge jump in time. So it's like the track was definitely getting better. Well, you tell me, was the track getting better?
So we had a dry free practice one, which I personally had a bit of a nightmare session really. I ended up 6th in that one, and that ended up actually being the grid positions for the first race because qualifying got cancelled. So I had basically combined practice times were our qualifying positions. So I started 6th on the grid for the first race from free practice 1. Free practice 2 was wet, and actually that's the first time I've rode the BMW in any wet conditions with wet tyres. And I really enjoyed the session.
You've never been on that bike in the wet?
Not until this weekend, no.
Jesus, has this been a fully dry season? Like
fully dry. Every free practice session, qualifying, the lot. Test day, anything.
The lockdown season's where it's at, kids. There you are. It's fully dry. Best summer we've ever had and all that. You say lockdown, hey. It's what it's at.
But a lot to sort of get used to, lots to try. I had different maps set in different you can change the buttons when you're out there. So I had lots of settings to try, and that the first wet practice was actually really good. I was leading for pretty much the whole session, and then it was actually a Spanish lad that ended up topping it, Danny Saez, which is mad, isn't it? Like you think. Like you expect the sort of English and the Irish and the Scottish to be good in the wet, and you think people from like the Europe would struggle more, and it was the total opposite. He's been absolutely nowhere in the dry all year, and then as soon as it was wet, he was P1. That's the lad Jeff Crust is sort of in Jeff Crust's team
on the WD-40. The ex-WD-40 team.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
oh god,
so you will car
that's it. Jeff Crust, the 6 foot man, will slap me in the face next time he sees me for that one. There, not WD-40.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the first race was due to go ahead on the Saturday, but that got cancelled due to the weather. The superbikes kept going to the grid because obviously with the TV, whatever, they had to try and make it. But every time they went to the grid, there was a downpour and the spray was just too dangerous. They did a warm-up lap, and when they were on the back straight, you literally couldn't see a thing. So obviously in that situation, if someone was to crash, it wouldn't give anybody behind the chance to avoid them, and you're just talking carnage. So
I tell you what, the man who's got up in my book every time is Brian McCormick. Was it free practice? Free practice one?
I think it was free practice 1. He was shifting.
He was absolutely shifting. He got up to like 5th position. I was absolutely over the moon. So anyway, there's Brian coming in with his umbrella riding for Feo race and everything like that. So, what do you make, Brian? Do you think you can see? Well, you can see the rain, like, get the race going. You're thinking, imagine if Brian got up there and fit, like, really dished out proportions, proper Irishman, built for the wet weather, and it would have been, mate, I would have been jumping on the spot.
Speaking of, when the race was due to go out, everyone had the live stream on the TV, everyone's watching the track to see what happens, and all of a sudden two fellas came skipping down the grid, hand in hand. What was going on?
Well, basically this was after a good old scrub, so you could, like, the live feed was still on the telly. So me and Piggy, I was about to take credit there. Piggy's working his arse off on your bike, cleaning the brakes down and everything like that. And you had Matt Truelove, he was working on his bike, and you had Harry Truelove, and we're all watching this telly screen, and we're all going, "Do you reckon that's live? Do you reckon that's still live?" So anyway, I stick my head round the corner, guys. It's live. So anyway, Piggy, the ever funny Piggy, just goes, "Go on, we'll have a walk down." So anyway, I'm walking down, and I was going to drop my pants and moon everybody. He goes, "Don't you bloody dare!" So he just went, "Should we just skip?" I thought, that'd be good crack. So anyway, we're skipping down pit lane. My phone went mental. all the Honda team were having a debrief. And like, I got a few messages, what the fuck are you doing? Like, me and him skipping down. And like, Matt Truelove put it on Instagram, and it's all a bit of fun, man. It's all a bit of crack. A couple of psychopaths skipping down.
And obviously in that time we got the podcast done, and then the schedule on the Sunday all obviously had to be changed because they had to get 3 Superbike races in, 2 Superstock races, so it was like no warm-ups, just all packed in to an action-packed
Which
Sunday.
race did they get done on Saturday? Was it just the June? Hold on, how many did they get done? Supersport
And the Junior Supersport, maybe something like that. I'm not sure. There wasn't many.
No.
But went into Sunday. I had a wet race in the morning, I think about 10:30, and then it actually dried out in the afternoon. So we got a dry race at about, I think it was like 3-4 o'clock or something.
It did change mine because it was absolutely Baltic in the morning. Then it came out and got a bit sunny, and you thought, this is more like it. So
the first race in the wet obviously started 6th. I got a belter of a start and I was straight up to 2nd at the first corner, and it was kind of me and Fraser Rogers at the front for a few laps. But then I tell you who's mega in the wet. You know, Lewis Rollo on the Aprilia.
Oh God, aye.
So I think it was at Donington last year. He won by a country mile, and he was quite far back on the grid, but he came steaming through, and also Billy McConnell came through as well, and it sort of turned into a 2-way scrap for the win between them two, and Billy got his first race win of the season. Mega overtaking manoeuvre on the last lap, going down into the fog S's, and so it was Billy Rollo, and then it was Tom Neve in 3rd. Danny Kent 4th, and then I finished 5th in that one. Obviously, it's my sort of joint worst result of the season. The
5th place.
The only other time I finished 5th was when I started last. So obviously, it wasn't a great result, but in the sort of grand scheme of things with the championship, I went into that race with a 27-point lead. So on one side, you're kind of wanting to do as best as you can and like get a good result.
Yeah.
And the other side is just you don't want to crash. You want to bring home some points and not make any silly mistakes. So it was a difficult race to manage. There was a big group of us. At times there was like 5-6 of us all going into the hairpins together.
That wet race was mental. I'm surprised any of you stood on. Like how the hell you stayed on the track. If you haven't watched it yet and you're listening to this podcast, for the love of God, watch it. It is just elbows bashing, people knocking into each other. In terms of
it was just like someone not involved in the race and just watching it as a spectacle, it was a hell of a race because like I said, going into the hairpins every lap, it was horrendous for me because I was just wanting to stay out of everyone's way and just like a safe race. But I naturally enjoy races like that. But given the scenario of the championship, I was just trying to be as safe as I possibly could. But
everyone was at each other.
5th position in that one, you get 11 points for 5th. So the championship went from 27-point lead with 3 races to go down to a 22-point lead with 2 races to go, and then dried out in the afternoon. I think I was 4th on the grid for the race 2. Again, got a really good start and got straight up to 2nd, and had a bit of a battle throughout the race. But after it was probably about 3 or 4 laps. Well, to be fair, going back all weekend in the dry, I was having big problems with chatter going into both of the hairpins, Melbourne and Goddard's. So I was really fast around all the fast sections, so Craner Curve, Schwantz, all of that section.
Now, to be fair, I'm going to defend you on this one. Now, chatter normally is a bullshit excuse for every rider. It is so, isn't it? Yeah. Across the whole board. But I tell you, all seriousness, go watch this second race. I mean, you can see the word. Now, if you don't know what chatter is, Chrissy Rouse visually explains what it is from a country mile off. The thing was out of control, mate. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, and to be honest, it was a bit of a head scratcher, wasn't it? It was a bit like, is it clutch? Is it traction? Is it this? Is it that? And it was just like, it just wasn't meant to be. And how you managed that was brilliantly, mate. It really was.
It was a really difficult race. I don't know if it was linked, but my sort of main problem in the race was actually problems with my brakes, and I'm starting and I'm actually thinking that the chatter was causing the issue, because I've never had a problem all year with my brakes, but during the race my brakes started coming back to the bars, and on the bike we've got a remote adjuster on the left hand side, so when the brakes come in, you can basically dial it, and it pushes your brake lever back out to give you a brake again. And during the race, I was coming down, and as I was going into corners, my brake was going back to the lever.
Is this every corner kind of thing? Or?
It was just on and off during the race, and so going into like all the different corners, I was hitting the brakes, and sometimes the brake was okay and it was there, but sometimes it was just coming back to the bars, and you know that sort of sickening, sort of heart-dropping moment, and so therefore I wasn't going into the corners, I wasn't sure whether I was going to have a full brake or not, and it was just playing on my mind a lot, and I was thinking, I was trying to I kept dialing my lever back out, but then if you've never tried to do that during a race, it's much harder than you expect. And a couple of laps I was braking into the foggy S's, and as I was braking and going in, I was taking my left hand off and trying to dial my it was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. And the more the race went on, the worse that was getting, and the more I was missing my braking markers, and missing my apexes, running wide, and it was like a scrappy race. But obviously I knew the importance of getting as many points as I could, so it was a really challenging race, but I dug in as hard as I possibly could, and despite I was losing so much time in the last sector. Like when I've watched the race back, basically as I'm getting towards the corner, the whole bike is chattering up and down, and it's impossible to like commit into the corner. So
if the bike's not settled, it's not going to go in.
So you're basically waiting while it's chattering, waiting, and then it settles. Then you can peel into the corner, and you can just see I'm losing so much, and
that's the thing about BSB. You get one slight little fault. Mm-hmm. It's game over, because like Danny Kent, like Tom Neve, him and that bike are absolutely on form, and he just once he had that little bit of gap, he improved on it, and he rode a hell of a race, and it just wasn't your weekend.
I was third most of the race, but I actually got passed by Tim, Tom's brother, with I think it was the last lap or going on to the last lap, and then Billy McConnell came past us as well, and obviously. I need as many points as I could, so I was desperate to get past him, and I was to be fair, I was quite far back going down Craner curves, but I got
you were a country mile back. You weren't quite far back.
I got a really good run coming out of the old hairpin, and managed just to get the drive to get underneath going up into Schwantz, which is you're up to fifth gear there, really fast committed pass. And as hard as I chased Tim down, I knew that if I didn't pass him before Foggy S's, I wasn't going to pass him, because I couldn't. I couldn't pass in the last two corners. So I was obviously disappointed, getting a fifth and a fourth, but racing, you know what it's like. Racing isn't easy, and you've got to just get the best with what you've got on the day. And we had a really tough weekend as a team, with issues, but just dug in and got as many points as I possibly could. And I've went from 27-point lead with 3 races to go to a 10-point lead with 1 race to go. So it's very exciting. It's close, and I think it's.
You're definitely in the entertainment business. You're leaving it to the last moment, aren't you?
I was thinking, I think it's quite fitting as well. The fact, I think me and Tom have been the consistently the sort of championship protagonists throughout the season. There's some amazing talent in the Superstock class, some really class riders, class teams, but in terms of consistency, it's been kind of me and Tom for more like for the majority of the season. And I think it's quite fitting that it's
like a David to Goliath story as well, isn't it? Privateer versus factory,
yeah. And it's I think it's quite fitting that it's going down to the last race of the season, and it'll just be the best man on the day wins. And I think for anyone, obviously for people that have followed it like through the podcast and who are invested in the teams and stuff, it'll be ridiculously exciting. But even from if you've never seen Superstock, I think if you watch that race, it'll be it's all to play for, and it's mega exciting. So we've got 10 days or whatever to prepare for that, And
because you got an engine strip as well.
Yeah.
So okay, before we go into that story, what causes an engine like what causes the decision to make an engine strip happen? Is it like a random selection, or do people ask for it, or what's going on?
At BSB, basically, after each of the main sessions, or qualifying and racing, all the bikes go to a place called Parc Fermé after the race, which gives the chance for anyone to...
Is that French?
To put an objection in. So, for example, if you think, Jimmy, just a random person, is got something illegal or is cheating or whatever, you can put £500 down and say, I want like check his crank or whatever. So you can do that. You can pay to get some, and if it's found to be illegal, you get your money back. But obviously, if it's not, you lose your 500 quid. However, there's random checks all the time. The dyno bikes all the time, the wave bikes all the time, because there's a minimum weight. They're always checking things like throttle bodies and just basic things. But every season there's random engine strips, and it's not really common, but in a season, pretty much all of the main championship rivals usually get an engine strip, I would say. And we've not had one this year, so it's it's half expected. I don't know whether it was random or whether someone put money down. I've got no idea.
But it was good to see on the Crowy Facebook page there, the Crow Performance Facebook page, that you get like a letter saying, like a confirmation that it was fully legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everything was ticked
all
right.
Sorry, I think that letter's just to say that it's to get it stripped. I don't think you get a letter.
Well,
obviously it was passed, but
you would obviously get a bollocking if you were running a 1200cc bike in a 1000cc.
But I mean, when you say an engine strip as well, it literally came back to the chassis came up, and then the inside of the engine came up in like a wheelbarrow, just a million pieces. So the lads have got a big job putting that back together in time for Brands Hatch.
You see, in my opinion, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Mind, I will just say about with the engine, that's one of... Do you know when people watch the bike racing and you think of like the cost of the tyres and the cost of things? That's a cost that nobody accounts for, because you get a full engine.
I do.
You get a full engine strip. You think of the labour and the parts to put all that back together, and you don't get anything from the organiser or from anybody. It's purely up to you. Now, that, like I said, that's the one engine strip we've had this year, and considering I'm leading the championship, I think it's quite I'm pretty sure all the past champions have always had an engine strip, but you think of the cost involved, and it starts there. It's one of those hidden costs that you don't really think of, but it is very expensive.
When it go, well, the good thing is the bike came home safe, so hopefully it won't be that expensive. But like you say, the labour alone and that will be absolutely huge. But it's no, I'll tell you what, like I learned a hell of a lot about the BSB on the way back. So I bumped leaving the Crow Performance tent there on the way back down. Hey, I'll tell you who does listen to the podcast. Phone a Cab, who sponsor pretty much every Irishman in the paddock. Mm-hmm. Now, he literally introduced himself by pointing to Simon Reed's jacket saying, "That's me," and he pointed at the Phone a Cab. I didn't actually get the man's name, and he does listen to the podcast. So, Mr. Phone a Cab, it was lovely to meet you, and I have no idea what your name is, so I do apologise. But no, speaking of Simon Reed, what a decision make that is. Like, they only get one race. They're there for 3 days and they get one race. And their race was half and half. And, I think, they changed the suspension. And I think Simon ended up going backwards, just basically based on a gamble, not his rider ability whatsoever.
I do not actually miss the 600 race, but Rees actually came to see us about half an hour before the race, and he was dead nervous, and he said, "What tyres?" And I said, 100% dries, like 1,000,000%. And he was like, "Are you sure? Like, what about like a wet front dry rear?" And I said, no, definitely dries. And then he came up, was dead excited, and said, "I won it. I went dries," and he'd won the race. So I'm not taking credit, because I'm sure you went dries.
You really
anyway.
are.
But I think some people went wet. I think Ben Luxton came third and he was on wet. But Rees won on, and it was a stylish win as well. He listens to the podcast, so he'll be chuffed.
He'll be over the moon.
I've seen on his Instagram, he's had some videos backing it into the Melbourne Loop. Looked really good, and for his first year on the 600 this year, he's been mega impressive.
There we are. But so Simon, we were just having a little bit of crack, and Yeah, he made the wrong decision on his suspension, everything like that. But you think that's a long weekend, isn't it, for one race? Like Adam McLean came off twice, bless him, at Crane of Curves. He had 4 race laps. Hold on. He had 4 laps throughout the weekend.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of. I mean,
it's bad, that, isn't it?
For you, when you do all the like loads of racing in the same day and stuff, it probably sounds crazy, but to me, that's actually quite normal. Like all the time I've done 125s, stock 600, for a lot of time in stock 1000. The schedule for the weekend would be 2 practice sessions, 1 qualifying and 1 race, and that's what you. And think about when you go to like World Superbikes and people literally travel all around the world to do practice, a qualifying and a race.
That's serious, isn't it? That is serious. But tell you what, let's jump into the side of things and the superbike racing.
Yeah.
What was the crack there then? Glenn Irwin, unlucky lad.
Well, they had 3 races in the same day. The first race was wet, and like I said, the 2 Honda boys shot off at the front.
They went off, mind.
Glenn was so aggressive off the start because he was second and he was third, and Josh Brooks was on pole.
Did you see the interviews?
No,
I'll show you after. We'll talk about the next
He
part,
literally he bolted and just swerved right in front of Josh, and Josh must have had to shut off, and Josh went from pole to like being like 7th or something, but it was actually Andy led the whole race. Really, really class ride. And
Glenn bended, didn't he, coming in on the
first lap at Goddard's? Yeah,
that was it. But he was howling. He went off like a scalded cat, didn't he?
Yeah,
and lost the championship lead at that exact point, wasn't he?
He did, yeah. And so Andy got the win ahead of Christian and Josh Brooks. That actually put Christian in top of the championship with Josh Brooks just behind him. Taron McKenzie was 4th, Vickers 5th, Gino Ray 6th, Kennedy 7th, Ride 8th, Booker 9th, and Jackson rounded out the top 10. Now, that race, it was kind of like a drying track, and there was a few of the lads that put intermediate tyres, so they were slow off the start, but they ended up getting like front row for the next race.
Was it Kennedy on the front row?
Yeah, so Kennedy was one of them, Gino Ray was one of them, and Ryder was one of them. So 6th, 7th and 8th in the race were all on intermediates.
That's what's brilliant about the BSB, isn't it? Because they go off your lap speed, so people like running mid-pack can't exactly go, oh, well, I've had a crap result, I'll just knock the throttle off. Mm-hmm. They're going, you need to keep pushing the entire time to keep those positions up, and it was their gambles definitely played off. So it's like Kennedy's on for RAF reserves, isn't he? Kawasaki, yes, Lee Hardy's team.
And he's just had he actually pulled in from both races at Oulton Park with arm pump, so he had an arm
really?
Pump, yeah, he had an arm pump operation last week, and then he got his first pole position in Superbike, so pretty impressive.
There we are.
The biggest sort of losers in that race were Jason O'Halloran and Tommy Bridewell. Jason was almost touch and distance of the championship lead at the time, and he came home in 14th with Bridewell in 15th, so they were like 2 of the top 5 in the championship at the time, so so they would have obviously been disappointed with that. Also, Marcus Reitenberger had we talked about him before the weekend.
Aye,
really didn't get on well, didn't enjoy himself at all, just struggled with getting used to the bike, and it was just so different to what he's rode in the past. But yeah, he in all 3 races was miles off. But yeah, so that put the 2 PBM bikes 1 and 2 at the top, and then
Mr. Paul Bird will be happy.
Yeah, the second race was dry, and Josh Brooks won that one. Really class ride, just led most of the race, looked faultless, and Jason O'Halloran picked himself back up after the disappointment of the first race, and came home in 2nd ahead of his teammate Taz McKenzie, back on the podium. And then it was a season best ride for Gino Ray in 4th, really strong
on the
strong
Suzuki
result
as well.
yeah And again, Tommy Bridewell, from his disappointing first race in the wet, did really well in that race and got back up to 5th ahead of Christian In. Now, Christian was leading the championship, but then coming 6th in that race, and with Brooks winning, Brooks took the championship lead from him, but obviously still quite close. And then there was lots of crashes in that race, mind. Just usually there's 1 or 2 crashes in superbikes. Hector Barbara, Lee Jackson, Hutchie, Brian McCormack, Kyle Ride, Andy Ewan, Vickers, Peter Hickman, Danny Buchan. Now, 4 of them happened in the same corner on the same lap. Vickers crashed and took Andy Irwin out.
I saw that, aye.
And then I think it might have actually been Storm Stacey that started it, but somebody hit Peter Hickman. then
Hickman
he took Buchan out, I think it
Who
was.
were the other two?
Which are the two?
Doesn't matter.
Vickers and Irwin.
Vickers and Irwin, that was it. Yeah,
And
sorry, I blanked out for a second.
And then Buchan and Hickman, but they all went down at Melbourne Loop early on in the race. So and then the final race of the weekend, Taz McKenzie was back on top ahead of Glenn Irwin, Josh Brooks, Christian and Gino Ray, Lee Jackson, Andy Irwin, Jason O'Halloran, Luke Mossey and Joe Francis rounding out the top 10. Really good ride for Joe Francis in that one. So in terms of the championship, it's very close at the top. PBM 1-2 at the moment. If you just give us 2 secs, I'll get the championship positions up. But did you get to see any of the superbike racing? Like, did you watch any of it live?
I did on the last race, which like Glenn definitely starting to go back. So what has Glenn Irwin got to do to try and... What's Glenn's situation to win the championship now? Now that he's had a DNF... He's had 2 DNFs, hasn't he? He's had a crash and he pulled in on a race.
Oh, yes, at Oulton Park.
He's given himself a... he's going to have to chuck a couple of kitchen sinks at the job, isn't he, to get that going again? We'll have to figure that out. But tell you what, while you're looking at that, the world superbike scene... they had a wet race as well. I think the whole world was raining at that situation.
I know, down at Magny Cole.
You ever been there?
Yes, I've actually raced at Magny Cole.
Have you?
Yeah, hell of a track. European Superstock 600 race I did there a few years ago. But yeah, mega track. Did you get to see any of that racing?
Nope.
During the day, because it fully wet there all weekend. There was a few big crashes. I seen it was a last lap battle. Leon Haslam on the Honda, I think he was about 5th at the time, and towards the end of the lap there's a real fast right-left section, and when I was watching I couldn't believe how hard they were pushing in the wet, and just as I was thinking like, wow, the back end came round on him and literally flung him over the top, and he came down and landed crack on top of his head. Huge, like really big crash.
Big crash.
But that race that I was watching must have been, I think it was race 1, and it was Johnny Ray that took the win in that one ahead of Loris Baz and Alex Lowe's. And then they have, do you know that Super Pole race?
Yes.
The Super Pole race, Johnny Ray won again ahead of Alex Lowe's and Vandermark. And then race 2, so the final race of the weekend, Johnny Ray had to finish on the podium to wrap up the championship, and he's won the World Superbike Championship at Magny Cole for the last 3 years at that round, and haven't won the other 2 races. You would have, you just assumed,
don't you?
And it was a brilliant race by Scott Redden. Scott Redden actually took the win ahead of Loris Baz again, Mick Shanley's Loris Baz, and Chaz Davies 3rd, knocked back Johnny Ray to 4th, which means it goes to the final round at Estoril. Now, I think he's got something like a 53 point lead or something. It's a massive lead. So I think Johnny only needs 3 points over the full weekend to wrap it up. So he needs to finish like 12th or something.
Stay on the bike.
So
I'll tell you what was interesting. Like the crack we were talking about. Like you almost forget, like at world level, that you still have privateer teams. Like 10-car Yamaha there. You were telling me like the staff numbers alone. Go through that crack that we were having before.
Yeah, it's a really, really small knit team, and at such a high level, it's literally incredible what they're doing, and the fact that you look at they've got Toprak and Vandermark on the factory bikes, and for Loris Baz to get 2 second places, you can't knock them for that. Like brilliant, and the whole team really fantastic result. Just going back to the BSB, sorry, I've got the championship up here. So Josh Brooks is first with 225 points. He's 16 points clear of Christian Idden in second. And then 2 points further back is Glenn Irwin in third. 1 point back from Irwin is O'Halloran. And then there's a bit of a jump 27 back to Taz McKenzie. And then another 33 back to Tommy Bridewell. So it's really, really close between Jason O'Halloran, Glenn Irwin, and then obviously it's sort of spaced out a little bit, but anything can happen. Obviously 25 points up for each race, and there's 3 races at Brands Hatch.
And the way they're all riding at the moment, anyone can have a bit of it, couldn't they?
Now just looking at in terms of consistency, the top, out of the top 4 riders, in fact, top 5, 6. If you're looking at the top 6, they're just so consistent. Tommy Bridewell had his first DNF on Sunday, but scored points in every other race. Jason O'Halloran hasn't had one DNF all year. Glenn Irwin's just had them 2. Christian has scored good points in every race this season, and the only race Josh Brooks hasn't scored points in is the one that he came together with Andy Irwin. That's the only race this season. They've been like ridiculously consistent, and that it. You know, when you're looking down the championship, there's lots of gaps sort of in the mid pack, but when you look at that top sort of 5, 6, super consistent, and obviously that's what wins championships. But yeah, so Brooks goes into the final round. It's sort of in the driving seat, 16 points, and he's mega around Brands
Hatch. How do you feel? I tell you what, you probably noticed the sound quality's picked up. I've been speaking into the back of the mic the entire time, so you've all had a gift from God there that I've actually had my volume turned down for a change. So the quality of this podcast is going to go down the hill from now on, because now everyone can hear me. But no, so what do you like round Brands? Yeah, you've got your mic set up properly, by the way, because you're the professional here. There you go.
Yeah, I usually go well. It's a fantastic track, and obviously this time of the year, weather's bound to play a part.
What's it like in the wet?
Yeah, good. It's a lot grippier than Donington, that's for sure.
There we go then.
Yeah, it's a mega track. We used to race on the Indy circuit and the GP circuit. The Indy circuit, although it's fun to race there, it's exciting racing and it's a cool little track. It's just a little bit Mickey Mouse for a BSB meeting, just with it being so small, and things like qualifying comes down to a bit of a lottery because there's only sort of 5,
and all sorts.
There's 5-6 corners to make up time, and it's so close difference? That to get a clear lap in qualifying is just a nightmare. The lap time difference
between the big track and the little track.
So big track, you're looking at like a 47 lap in Superstock, and the big track I think is a 130. I can't even remember.
That's
127 or something.
That's big. That's a big lap.
128, 127. I can't even remember. It's 127-ish, I think.
Has anyone done any testing at all around there?
Not that I know of. People might have got a couple of track days on the Indy circuit. I think the Aprilia team were down there a while ago.
But no one's been running the big circuit all year.
They don't do many test days on the big circuit because there's quite a lot of housing around the back of the circuit, and obviously with noise restrictions and stuff.
Right.
They only get from the council. They only get a few days a year, I think. So the BEMSI usually run a meeting there, and 1 or 2 BSB meetings, maybe a touring cars or whatever. But there's not much action goes on around the back of Brands. So I don't think many people have been tested.
All right, that's interesting.
Which is good because
it keeps it clear.
It's a level playing field. It's a little bit like Thruxton. Nobody tests at Thruxton, so when Superbikes goes there, it really is a clean slate, and it sort of negates that advantage.
There we go.
But looking forward to it. Have you got any crack for the coming week?
Nothing.
Just work.
No, just work. Hopefully going to be doing Cadwell Park. Saying that, I put my entry in with Thundersport. Haven't heard anything back. I got in touch with Bernadette from Thundersport, and she says, well, we'll try and fit you in. I put my entry in, and this is only a day after the entries opened, because obviously with the COVID thing, they're not doing like blank open entries.
Yeah.
So I was a day late, which I had no idea I was a day late. Put my entry in, so I'm waiting to find out if I'm in or not. So, yeah, hopefully I'm down at Cadwell at the end of the month, like a Halloween special down at Cadwell.
No,
but bar that.
Just before we get on with the interview, I've got a little giveaway. One of my sponsors. One of my sponsors actually got in touch. Seropian CBD oil. And they've very kindly sent us a little box of, it's a muscle, I use a muscle rub on my scarf and the operation that I had in March. And they've very kindly sent us a little box of, it's the muscle rub, which I use, and also the premium, the oil, CBD oil you put under your tongue.
Oh yes, aye.
There must be a stray dog.
There's a stray dog. Normally it's me in this industry, in this place, isn't it? So there you go.
But yeah, so we'll stick that on the social media, and
everyone loves a freebie.
Exactly.
Everyone loves a freebie.
I'll get that posted out. But yeah, without further ado, we're caught up with Shane Richardson and Damon Rees.
Let's speak about that. Damon, poor lad, bust his arm. No, collarbone or some. Anyway, part of his anatomy is broken. I think I can't remember which corner. You can tell I'm a hell of a journalist, can't you? All I know is the lad's hurt himself, so obviously get well soon, and I'm absolutely gutted for him because the lad is, like we're saying, you'll find out in this interview, you'll see how dedicated they are to the sport and the sacrifices they've made, and quite frankly the adventures they've had. I went away from that interview going, God, what a life.
They're both very mature and grown up for I think you think they're a lot older than what they actually are.
They do.
I'm pretty sure Damo's about my age, like 24ish, something.
He's got a beard and a hat, like full time. He's got a beard. Like, I'm thinking this bloke looks 30 odd. You know what I mean? And I'm just like,
I don't mean looks wise. I just think.
Oh no, both. I mean both of them. I think it's the new. To be honest, right? They're the perfect ambassadors for New Zealand. Who doesn't want to go there after meeting them two? Yeah. They're more laid back than deflated Lilos. They're fantastic.
They are very cool.
They're intoxicating, to be fair, because you're just like, yeah. And to be honest, Chrissy, I think that the guests outdid the hosts on that one. You obviously focusing on your job, and then my head's up my arse anyway. Period. So no, I think they did fantastic guests, and yeah, but obviously get well soon. And Shane's a dad, and yeah, listen to the interview and make up your own mind.
Fantastic. Now, just before we go, I'm pretty sure you said you've got a joke for us this week before
I
the podcast.
I did, but it's no, it's come and gone. It's all about the romance of a joke. You know what I mean? Right. So I'll set that one up for another time. So, prepare yourselves because it's quite frankly shite. But we'll go from there, son. But no, do you want to hit the play button?
Yeah, without further ado, over to Shane Richardson and Damon Rees.
Yeah.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chersin, the Racing.
So we've got Shane and we've got Damo, and first of all, you both have made the journey over from New Zealand, racing over there and various places. Shane, you came over last year.
Yeah.
Just go back. What were you doing in New Zealand? How did you come to coming over here?
It was a bit of a long journey, really. I started in 2013, got my first sort of race bike for the track, and was racing around New Zealand. Then 2017, I went over to America for a couple of years over there, just with me and two mates.
As you do,
yeah. And it was we went to the Daytona 200 for a start, just to contest that. So we did that, and it was a kind of backs against the wall, fighting the whole way kind of adventure. And we flew back home to New Zealand. We decided that we could probably be competitive in Moto America, so we got back on a plane again and flew back to America. And we ended up.
You not got mobile phones in New Zealand or something?
No,
you had to come home and discuss it with your parents.
We're not that advanced yet.
Fantastic.
So that was a hard couple of years in America, because it was you're always just behind the eight ball, with a lack of finances, lack of resources or whatever. And 2018, so I rode Stock 600 there in 2017. 2018 went back and raced Stock 1000, but then in June I wasn't allowed back in the country because we had to do a visa run every couple of months because we weren't on a sports visa and so on and so forth. And so we left and then couldn't get back in. So that was a bit of a drama. Then when I finally could get back in, only I was allowed in without a mechanic. So
was that all the drug convictions and the...
Yeah, that's the one. Something to do with the sheep, but I don't know. I think they got the wrong idea.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Got back in there at the end of the year and just sort of finished off the championship on my own out of the back of a box van, and then was looking to come over here, and I was with my partner Hannah, who's British, so I'd come over here while I wasn't allowed in America. I'd come over here and ended up going to BSB at Knock Hill, just having a look and whatnot. And then when I came back at the end of the year, I spoke to a few people, and tried to sort of see what it was about, kind of thing. And didn't really come to too much. Went back home and raced on a superbike for the first time in New Zealand, which is basically a pretty stock 1000 spec, but superbike class back home. And that was the year Peter Hickman came over and was racing with us over there. And so racing with him, obviously he's seen what we're all about and whatnot, and we'd spoke to him and said he was looking for something over here, and he put us in touch with Stuart Tromans and James Jackson. So because obviously Alex Olsen has sort of just left them at a later date and left them with nothing. So kind of it just sort of all fell into line quite nicely, really, that the timing was good. So when I come over, they were able to put on, it was originally going to be a stock 1000, but then that sort of all kind of fell through a bit through financial side of things, and he'd come back a bit later and say, well, look, we could do your stock 600 because I was young enough. It's a good way to learn the tracks, learn the championships and all things like that, with an eye in for this year, hopefully being a bit better than I actually have been. But So yeah, that's kind of how it all came
We'll
about.
we'll come back to, because there's a few things I want to touch up on there about like racing in America and a few other things, but just we'll welcome Damo to the podcast, and I'll just a quick shout out. Damo does a fantastic like vlog. Is it a video? Yeah, vlog on YouTube, and so like sort of what's it called, the Kiwi
invasion of the BSB. Yeah.
Well, so if anyone wanted to check that out, just
get on YouTube.
Get it on YouTube. Yeah, but welcome to the podcast, and similar for you. Just give us a quick sort of roundup of how you ended up coming over here.
Started road racing in 2014 through the ranks in New Zealand, racing this guy as sort of my main rival. Then went and raced in Australia from 2017 till last year. Made a small, like a holiday trip over here last year with Carl Cox Motorsport to watch the TT and everything like that. And then I actually stopped off and watched at the national round here, and watched the BSB round. Sort of met Shane's team at the time and didn't really think a whole lot of it, just trying to network, I've always sort of looked at racing over here in this championship, so it was sort of what I wanted to do, but you just don't know. Like Shane said, like when he came over, like nothing really comes of it. And then pretty much went back and finished the Australian Championship. And then Shane sort of said, before I went off to the last round in Australia, he said like the team was looking at running a second rider, and I was like, dude, put my name down, put my name in the hat. I'll be all for it. So it pretty much snowballed from there, and it was because Shane put in a good word for me, and it kind of like I said, that's pretty much how I've ended up over here. So it's been a pretty good ride. I haven't had to travel as far as this dude through America and stuff like that. So, but it's still been a tough time racing in Australia. It's no easy championship to race in, and especially when, like you said, you're always behind the eight ball with budget and racing and testing. So, yeah.
So with all the travelling that you've done in such a short period of time, the pair of you, especially you, Shane, it's like America, New Zealand. Have you done any in Australia as well?
No, I've not been to Australia.
Not in Australia. No. So, all right, collectively, you can come up with this answer, really. What is the most competitive racing out there?
From where I've been, it would be here.
Really? That much stronger?
Just from like everywhere you go, the fast guys are fast, but I think here the field's so much deeper of competitive riders.
Mm-hmm. The depth of field.
Yeah.
And I don't actually know much about the Australian scene. Does it have a domestic championship similar to BSB?
It does, obviously on a smaller scale, but it is because you've got similar number of like people who live there, but like the country's ginormous, as you know. So like you travel from Sydney to Phillip Island, and that you'll leave at 5 in the afternoon, and then you'll get there at 6 o'clock the next morning. It's a big drive. It's the travel and all the costs that go in, like just get to the race meeting, whereas like we're so lucky over here, it's half an hour to an hour to most of your racetracks when you're in the middle, Everyone
else is whinging about the diesel bill, and you're like, shut up, man, what are you whinging at?
It's down the road. It's just down the road. So
even Knock Hill's good here, isn't it? It's not super far.
Too bad.
I haven't done that trip yet, but 7 hours doesn't really sound like a whole lot of driving.
Yeah. And what about over in America? What was your your, like, if you had to recap your time racing there, did you enjoy the championship? Was it like well run? Was it competitive?
Was the paddock full of bell ends? That kind of thing.
They're everywhere, aren't they?
Very political answer there.
No, it was really good. And it was for me, that was like the first time away from home, so there was so much learning, so much growing, all that sort of stuff. And it was.
Most kids pack up and leave to go to the circus or something like that. This
lad
goes
that's pretty
to
much
America.
what it felt like, to be honest with you.
Kind of is in a way, yeah.
me and 2 other lads. The first year, we're just literally living out of the back of a pickup truck that we brought for $2,000 with a little trailer on the back. And generally just sleeping under trees, airbeds, like on the side of the road kind of thing. Like it was that sort of adventure. So it was as much of an adventure as it was serious racing. And we did well. Like we got a few podiums the first year in the 600s. But like I say, we're just always behind the eight ball, because you sort of turn up with nothing, and to acquire everything was really hard. Like when I got my first podium at Road America, and we had sort of just parted ways with this guy that we'd done the first 2 rounds of the championship with. He was loaning us stands and all sorts of tools and things like that, but then he wasn't going on the rest of the championships. We went on our own, and when we were there, I'd built a plywood rear stand, and we were using just like axle stands under the front. And I ended up qualifying on the front row out of Supersport and Stock 6 outright. So you had Garrett Gerloff, Valentin DeBeese, and then myself on the front row, and we just got this beat up looking bike. And someone ended up lending us stands and stuff like that, so we didn't look like such a shit show in front of all that. So It was that kind of year, and a lot of driving. I think our longest drive was like 32.5 hours or something from sort of.
How long does it
one
take you to
the
get to
other.
Spain? Like you? No, I'm being
What
serious.
to drive?
No, like Cartagena kind of thing.
To drive?
Yeah, to drive.
From here, I don't know. It's a good.
It's not.
It's got to be over 1,000 miles. That,
It's got to be 1,000 mile, but it's got to be less than a day. It's got to be 24 hours and that.
I think most people do 2 days. I think.
2 days. Right? I was about to say.
Because I kind of got to the point where you're like, because we're working in kilometres still, because it's like the New Zealand sort of measurement, of distance. And you'd put it on, you get onto like one of the interstates, they're like, for 1,255 kilometres, stay on I-Force. It's like, we could turn that off for
a fair few hours.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so.
Obviously, it's one thing talking about racing in different championships and stuff, but when you actually think of all the logistics in terms of, like, you guys have totally, like, left everything at home, came over here in like with a backpack and maybe like sent a few things over, and you've like literally obviously you've met Hannah and you've kind of got that structure, and what about
impregnated her? Yeah.
I'm
staying.
That's my visa. I'm here for the long haul.
Hannah, I love you, babe, but
congratulations by the way.
Thank you.
And what about yourself, Damon? Have you come over with the missus?
Yeah, came over with my girlfriend. Been with her for a long time. So as soon as we sort of had that opportunity to come racing here, I was like, we're going racing in England. She says, I'm coming with you. So I had no objections to that, because she's like my partner in crime. We do everything together, and she feeds me. She's a good personal trainer for me as well. So like, we just gel together, so it's just been it's worked out perfectly. Apart from Shane gets a free visa, but I don't get that option. So
Charlie has been feeding me too this weekend.
Yeah,
so
she's
it's
been
all right.
feeding her too.
That's what I say,
She's a good chef. Yeah,
she's in for a shock then.
Yeah.
You're just like, can we have a baby? I think it'd be the only racer in the paddock that's actually pushing for a baby. But I think we need to have kids. No, get off me.
Yeah. What about in terms when you first came over here? Obviously, you've got your pick of like where you locate and stuff. Yeah. Did you have any ties in terms of like where to go? Did you just sort of get a map and Ipdu there? Like, how did you pick?
Well, for me, like obviously Hannah's family and everything's brought up ingrained here, and she was in Coventry, which is pretty central, so it just made sense for me to live with her. I ended up getting work through like her family, so that sort of got me a good job sort of straight off the bat. And then kind of being central is easy, to get everywhere pretty simply. I know Coventry's not got the best rep, but so far I haven't been stabbed.
But sorry, what have you got like trades wise? Did you leave with a trade, or have you literally just woke up and just gone, I'm off, I just want to become a motorcycle racer? Have you got any skills that you can bring from? You're just laughing here. So you've totally done what he said. You've just turned up on an island and just gone, let's have a portion.
Yeah. I like to think mine was a bit more well thought out than that. Like I'm a qualified joiner, so I had 4 years to come qualified, and ironically, like where I work back home in New Zealand, they said you can't go overseas racing until you're qualified, sort of thing, just because they're just looking out for me, because it's a safety net, isn't it?
Of course, having a trade.
I've learned that pretty quickly being over here, and it just so happened that as soon as I come qualified, like 3 months later, I got my first opportunity to go overseas, which was to Spain in the end of 2016 for the European Junior Cup, just the final round as a wild card there. So I've got a skill set behind me, which I'm still using here now, so it's all paid dividends.
Mm-hmm. Well. No, I've actually got a motorcycle qualifications, technician qualification. So I'm a mechanic actually. So I worked at my dad's Honda dealership back at home in New Zealand. For 8 years now I've been a mechanic. So I've been quite lucky that I could come over here and I could get a job at a motorbike shop. I could kind of do anything I needed to. But going back to your question where I decided to live, I ended up with a job courtesy of Richard Cooper putting me in contact with Steve Randall at Royal Enfield at the tech centre. So so put me in contact with him, and he's put me in a test ride role. So sort of I ended up in Leicester to begin with. It was sort of somewhere to base myself that wasn't far from work, and then again it was central. It was only about 50 minutes to Shane's. So
ideal.
You mentioned Carl Cox, obviously big celebrity over here in the UK. What's the connection there?
Connection sort of started. He's got a small started out with a small sidecar team many years ago in New Zealand, actually, sort of through some people that he had in New Zealand. He's got a place he lives at when he goes for a holiday in New Zealand, and obviously he actually bases himself generally in Melbourne in Australia, so he's actually a southerner really, so he had a small team in New Zealand, and he sort of grew and grew and grew within New Zealand, and when we looked at going racing in Australia in 2018, me and my brother were going to go racing, and we sort of approached him for some support, and then he supported us that year, then he supported us last year in Australia, and then I sort of approached him for this season here in England, and I said, look, I've got this opportunity to go racing in the Superstock 1000 class, and I said, do you want to come on board? So, and he was keen as mustard. So it was one of those things. I was like, okay, I can do it now. So it was a dream come true that he said yes, and like I said, I'm just so grateful for what that dude's done for me so far. It's been pretty awesome.
And have you been out to like Ibiza to any of his sets or anything?
No, we were actually meant to go to Tomorrowland earlier this year. He had some tickets and everything set up. We were VIP and everything. He had us sorted, so we were so excited because actually I hadn't been to anything massive before. Like, he'd done a small gig in New Zealand that I'd been to, and then I actually was at the TT one he did at the end of the TT week last year. And those are the only two real big gigs I've ever been to anyway, let alone his gigs. So we were pretty excited just to go to Tomorrowland. I mean, I imagine I was probably going to get lost in that place, is how big it normally gets.
Easy done.
Get lost or find yourself, one of the two.
So
a bit of both if you're lucky.
So like I said, would have been pretty cool to at least go to Tomorrowland, but let's hope for next year, really.
Definitely. Any thoughts about the TT? Like the pair of you? Is this something? Nah, it was a very disgruntled face there, Shane.
It's the kind of thing, like, it's crossed your mind more years previous. But I think, like, it'd have to be such a long-term thing for me if I was going to do it, that I'd have to be studying it now and, ready to be there. And I mean, I haven't been, and I still don't sort of have the intention to do that. So at this point, no. And I think Hannah wouldn't be too happy, obviously, given her circumstance, if I was to step into that arena as well. So
yes,
totally at this point, it's a firm no.
Yeah, there we go.
For me, I've never said no.
That's what happens after the TT after party. It's like this happens every year.
I've never said no, but to be honest, in this point, I enjoy circuit racing so much that I don't feel like I need that buzz that obviously the TT guys get. It's not something that I'm chasing yet. No, like maybe when I'm that bit older, obviously, like you see the average age of a TT star. They're not our age. They're in their 30s generally when they're still doing extremely well. Even, look at the likes of McGuinness and all of that. Look at our, not old, but like they're not young circuit racers anymore. So like, it's not like you get to your 30s and you're like, oh, TT will never happen now. You've still got so many years. So like I said, I've never said no to it, and it'd have to come to a point that I'd be like, right, I'm ready to commit to it. But again, like Shane said, it's your life. You commit everything to it.
Yes.
Now, just before we started the podcast, you were having a little bit of crack about the Cemetery Road races.
Oh, that has been a dream. I really want to go. That's my dream event.
Yeah.
It's like I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of them, and I really want to do the Cemetery Road race.
Like we had Richard Cooper on the podcast a while ago, and after he'd been to New Zealand, and is it the Suzuki
Series? Yeah.
Is that that's a bit of a road race, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got two circuit races, just like you get here, and then you've got the final one on Boxing Day, following day after Christmas. So. And that's on the streets of Wanganui, and you're going crazy around the streets.
Have you done that?
Yeah, we both do it.
It's
every
probably
year,
one of my most favourite events of the year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, great spectator numbers, and like I said, it's really good for your sponsors, because like your normal circuit race won't get massive. Like, it gets good spectators, but it doesn't get anywhere near what you get at a street circuit, So that's the one you want to do really well at. You get good prize money if you do really well too. So
I couldn't imagine now better than a Christmas holiday there, if you know what I mean. I just couldn't imagine.
It's not cold. You go there and it's summertime.
That's what I mean. Like, sitting on a beach having a couple of beers.
But to us, Christmas Day is almost nothing, though, isn't it? Because you're there setting up. Like, Boxing Day is the day. Christmas is.
So considering you've done a road race over there, and you've said it's your best. Your favourite occasion or favourite race or whatever, do you look at races like the Northwest 200 and think that's the sort of UK equivalent? Would you fancy doing that?
I think that would have to be the one, wouldn't it, that looks kind of would be the most appealing, so to speak. But I think the road races over here are different to home. Like, we've had quite a few at home, but they're not so wide open and fast. Like, especially the Cemetery circuit, you barely get out of second gear on a superbike.
Really similar to probably Scarborough. Really, like not like. Obviously the actual layout, but like the speed wise, like how fast it is, the tight corners, that's kind of what you're going to experience in a New Zealand like street race, you know.
So a bit similar to like Aberdeen Park or somewhere like that. I don't know if you're
interesting.
familiar with
It just
that.
looked a
Don't know
little
what
bit
that is,
because you
It's
like
not
watching the onboards and stuff like that.
Looks fast.
It looks fast. It looks
And it
open.
feels
second,
fast
third
like
gear
it
on a
would do,
super
but-
bike. That's all you're using. Yeah. So
Right.
it's not flying.
Now, obviously, when you've both came to the UK, Shane, you were a year before Damo, and last year, like you said, you were coming over to race 1,000, but you ended up doing a year on the Superstock 600 with James Jackson, and a fantastic. Considering you didn't know the circuit, you know, turning up and almost winning the championship, coming down to the last race of the season. How summarise?
I hate people like you.
Summarise, summarise your first year in racing in the UK.
Yeah, it was really good. Obviously, the Stock 600 thing came around quite last minute, to the point where we ran the bike in as a road bike at Cadwell, I think like the week before Silverstone.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do the test there, then sort of rolled up. And the first round wasn't flash, you know, it was kind of just figuring things out. And I think I finished 6th or something. And then went to Alton Park, and everyone said how hard that is to learn. And I went there and I won by 10 seconds, and that was, you know, like, was kind of alright. And sort of fought for the lead in the championship from there.
Mm-hmm. Even in free practice one, though, it wasn't like you bedded in over the weekend. You
No,
were
like I think I
instant
topped free practice 2, and then I think that was kind of like the okay, I can do it. You know, everyone has those sort of moments, and then
I haven't.
it'll come.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, and from there it was kind of like, you know, just fighting for the lead of the championship sort of most of the year. Obviously learning everywhere as we went, and things got a little bit harder towards the end of the year. More so from like the away from the track side of things, like the guy I was working for, what I said earlier, you know, through the family, he ended up passing away. So then that kind of left me with not no work, but almost, he just sort of started up a small business. It was just him and I at that point, building like high-end kitchens and stuff. And when he passed away, I just took on everything that we'd taken deposits for, and got hold of everyone and said, do you want me to finish it, or that kind of deal. So there was kind of that instability at that point, and I think that sort of took away a little bit of the focus. But I think I've sort of done enough at the start of the year that I could ride on the points lead that I had. And obviously coming into Brands Hatch at the end of the year with 19-point lead, the worst I finished was 7th at Cadwell. So I was quite confident that I could, you know, keep your head screwed on, get the result. Obviously a wet weekend most of the weekend till come Sunday, and we ended up having a fuel pump blockage. And I knew right from the start of the race, like I was going down the straight and it wasn't wanting to rev out or drive forward, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And then it quickly come from trying to ride forward in the groups to just trying to fight and not go backwards, and it ended up starting to cut out more and more, and bad enough to the point where I thought, yeah, I'm one of those idiots. If I don't pull off here, I'm a danger to everyone coming up behind me. So you just had to make that decision to pull in, and obviously there was still a chance that I could have won depending where the other guys finished, but then Corey won when he needed to, so fair play to him. But it was really good. But I think it's been eye-opening this year coming back now, like on a big bike. Obviously everything's changed, and you know, now I understand a lot more of what people say. I'm trying to learn Alton and places like that, whereas I think last year on the 600 I could get away with doing things wrong and still do it quickly, whereas now you kind of realise how much you don't know, and
it kind of amplifies your mistakes.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's why it's been a little bit harder this year. Like, as much as I sort of know where I'm going and what's over the rise, it's been a lot more apparent to how much learning I still need to do and potentially didn't get done last year. So.
Yeah, because what are you lads riding? What bikes are you on?
BMWs.
BMWs, Superiors. Right, so is that the first time you've been on BMW? So you didn't go from Gen 3s, it was straight on. You're on Gen 4s, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there we go. So that's even a learning curve, because you said that yourself, even getting on this new bike, it's a learning experience.
And obviously for yourself, Damo, coming over this year, and I guess it was one of the kind of unknowns going into the championship, where like everyone kind of knew you were stepping up from 600, and then like there was an unknown coming from New Zealand, and you certainly took most people by surprise at the first few rounds. You know, you were the only person that finished on the podium in both races at the first round. You must have been really happy with how the start of the season.
You must have been going, these lads are a joke. England this, England that, bunch of soft shites.
No, to be honest, we with the lockdown and everything, it probably helped me the most. Really, it allowed me to get comfortable with living here, set up basically my life, And then when it came time to go racing, we got the chance to go and do 4 days of riding on the new BMW. So got used to the hard tyres, the SE2s that we're using. So there was a whole heap of little things that I kind of got my head screwed on for. We did the test and ended up in the top 10 at the test. So I was like, sweet, we could be on, for some top 10s at the round. And then we made just a couple of more small changes at the round, and like bang, we're in the top 5 for the weekend after that. And it was like, all right, we can have a crack at it. And to be honest, I probably still got a little bit screwed up in the races, maybe still learning that last bit of racecraft. Like I maybe waited too long in a lot of the races and let the boys push me around, and then at the end it was like, all right, it's time to go. Like I was still fresh, ready to go at the end of the races, but it was like too little too late. The second race, when you and Billy were kind of gone, it was like I sat there and the last couple of laps I was catching, and it was like I should have just been there the whole race. So like there's little things like that, but yeah, like that week probably could not have gone a whole lot better, like other than obviously winning, but like being on the podium in both races was like, it doesn't happen too often. You come over as a nobody and a newcomer, and you finish in the top 3 at a stock 1,000 race in the British Championship. So I was like, yeah, pretty wrapped, like going home.
When you look at some of the lads you've been beaten, like the likes of Danny Kent, a genuine world champion, Billy McConnell, who's raced over here for years and is an unbelievable rider on a great bike. You must look down the timesheet, and even like the depth of field in Superstock, even like you get right the way into the 20s and there's top names. You must be sort of pleased with how things are going.
Totally. I mean, like I said, and Shane always sort of says, like, man, look at the riders that are all like either behind you or just in front of you, and like particularly was like a number one eye opener was Alton Park, like a track that we'd only been to once, and it was raining, so like really had no idea where I was going. So when I went there, and FP1 was like a complete disaster. I was like, but then Shane was like, but there's only dudes like who've been here for a long time, and they're like half a second, if that. So it was like we made big jumps all weekend, but it was like come Sunday we finally made all the right changes, but it was kind of too little too late. You start so far back, and then there's so many little things to learn. But like I said, yeah, it's the depth of field in this championship. It's like you cannot really have a bad weekend. Like I've been in the top 3 in the championship right till Alton, and then 2 kind of off races, and then I'm 6th, but still with a shot at 3rd at this point genuinely. But yeah, it's all like bang, and then you're out of it, So yeah, it's a bit of an eye opener, this championship, where everyone's generally there at every round.
I just can't. Don't bring any more news. Don't bring any more your mate Shane. Like, there must be something in the blood over there. Like your ability, the ability to learn tracks that quick is brilliant. Like you say, when you look at them sheets and you think the experience here is key, but
it becomes sink or swim though, doesn't it? Like I think opportunities can be hard to come by, especially ones where you've got a genuine opportunity on a good bike, good team, good surroundings. So but you're forced to kind of make it, aren't you? Otherwise it becomes hard after that to keep getting more opportunities.
But you've obviously got the right lads around you, because you two are more laid back than deflated Lilos. It's fantastic.
That's the Kiwi nature, mate. We're pretty relaxed.
No, but it works. I'm feeling relaxed in this interview. Normally, nervous and everything, but no, it is impressive, because as Chrissy knows, my me keeping in touch with this BSB scene's a nightmare, but just listening to your stories, it is incredible what you lads have achieved in such a short period of time.
Over a race weekend, do you like work together to get the bikes out? Do you both have similar settings?
Or do you have the Rossi board?
Or do you kind of do your own things and just sort of like, do you help each other? Or
we're pretty much we're really open. We look through all of the data through the bikes, and then obviously through the settings and stuff, we sort of work similar in the sort of same direction. Like after this morning's warm-up, it was like, it's really funny because Shane's normally the aggressive one under brakes and everything, but we look at the data in the wet, and I'm like grabbing the brakes stupidly hard, and I'm blowing through the stroke, and we're thinking, man, I need to go harder and harder and harder, but in fact the rest of the track I'm not using half as much stroke, so it's like there's something I'm doing wrong there. And then he's got softer springs and everything, so like I said, we're pretty honest with each other. We talk about what we're doing, and then also just lines, gearing, all the little things that like really don't know. So
I think we've been pretty on par too, haven't we? Like even a lot of times obviously you try and sort of just go your own direction to do what sort of works for you, but we still seem to end up in a pretty similar position anyway.
End of the weekend, we've pretty much got the same setup. realistically.
And sometimes we'll like do a warm up where we'll try opposite things to cure a problem that sort of we both got, and sort of working together to figure things out really.
Fantastic. And what about away from the racing? How are you, the sort of contrast of living in the UK to living in New Zealand? Is there anything stand out that's like, obviously I know with the COVID stuff at the moment everything's a bit weird, but is there any big changes between the two that sort of stand out?
I think just your whole lifestyle for me particularly, like obviously you've not got all your friends or anything, so like when you don't go out and do anything, for me I feel like I just kind of work. If I'm not riding, I'm working, and it's just a...
What do you miss most about home? It's turning into this is your life rather than a motorcycle interview. No, but you know what I mean? It's like...
To be honest, I wouldn't say that I've really missed home much this year. Like, I definitely had moments when we're in lockdown, like that was awful, but I haven't like gone, man, I need to get on a plane and go home. I've never got to that point, because I guess I'm quite lucky because my girlfriend and I, we're like I said, we do so well together, so it's like we've taken this whole journey, and it's just like our off weekends we'll go hiking or walking or just...
That's it. Did you go up to Helvellyn the other day?
Yeah, it's awesome. Freezing cold, but it was definitely a great time. So like I said, we're trying to see, well, we wanted to do a lot of Europe this year, like just get a cheap flight, go somewhere in Europe and just see the world, because like New Zealand, it's so far from anywhere. Even Australia's a 3.5 hour flight, so nothing's on your doorstep, whereas over here everything's right there. So like that's what we wanted to do. I'm getting a different
perspective here. This is
fantastic. That's what we wanted to do, but like obviously coming here, it's like, all right, we're stuck in England, let's go and see England. So we've kind of seen a lot of things in the cheapest way possible, which is walking and hiking and doing all the other things. So that's what we've pretty much done. We've tried to see things in a different way that like we've never done stuff like that at home, because I guess you take for granted what's on your doorstep. At home, like New Zealand, we're so lucky, especially where I live. I've got the ocean's 20 minutes away, the closest lake that you go and swim, you don't even need a wetsuit in the middle of summer, like it's so warm. That's 15-20 minutes drive, and then you got
like at South Shields, isn't it?
Shut up, man.
Everything's down the road, and it's such so like you do get those moments where you miss it, but like we're just making the most of just being here and seeing a different end of the world.
Have you been up to God's country yet, up in Newcastle?
No, haven't been up there. We will get up there.
You'll end up going home after it. I'm telling you. Where's that flight?
What about up Scotland? There's some beautiful...
No, we did want to go up to Scotland at one point, but it just didn't quite work out. But yeah, we
damn
do
Nicola
plan...
Sturgeon. Damn lockdown.
we do plan to go up there at some stage and just see that little bit further north. We will start doing stuff like that.
If you get the North Coast 500 done, that's like the best road trip you can do.
Yeah.
Back to the racing though. Next, what's your aspirations for next year? Are you planning on staying over here, or what? Superstock again? And
at this race, looking like much the same. Like I'd like to be in Superstock, obviously for myself. I've still got a lot to learn on a big bike.
So if someone offered you a superbike ride, would you not take it?
I don't think I'm ready, to be honest with you.
Bollocks! You've learned
for what my season's been this year.
You've learned every track we've got in 10 minutes. I think you'd be fine on a superbike, to be fair.
Last year, then I come back this year and
all right, so,
unlearn it.
So you definitely want to just stick at the stock 1000.
Yeah, I think there's such a thing as jumping up and running before you can walk, isn't there? And I think I'm at that point where I'm not quite ready. I've got a bit more to learn yet.
On that topic, what if you had to specifically talk about where you feel like you're struggling on the 1000? Which sort of areas do you feel you need to improve?
I think I'm still riding it a lot more like a 600, like especially having Damon, which is good, overlaying the data again. We can look like I think it was at Silverstone, wasn't it? Like at one point he is at 40 degrees lean angle, asking for 80% throttle, whereas I'm at 51 degrees and only able to ask for 68, and then spinning my tire and things like that, and just a lot of those sort of things. Just adapting to the big bike and the style of it, because I've not had realistically a full season on 1000 yet. I've kind of come and go on and off of one. So this is the sort of first time full time, and obviously the field being what it is really amplifies what you don't know. So
what did you mainly ride back at home then? Big bikes, or was it?
So I've been on a super bike at home. I think it'd be 3 years now.
Right.
So like I haven't gone from a 600 over here and tried to learn 1000 either. So like I started riding a Honda Fireblade back at home. Would be beginning of 2018. and then sort of did a little bit, and then went and raced in the Supersport class in Australia, raced in that championship, finished 4th in the championship that year, actually won at Phillip Island on the slowest bike, so I was pretty chuffed with that. I actually topped Speed Trap. I got a double bike slipstream, so I claimed that, but raced in Australia on a Supersport, and then finished, went back to New Zealand, raced on a Superbike again, and that sort of went reasonably well. It was pretty much like what Shane's learned this year. Like what I learned at home that year was how to ride a superbike, how not to ride a superbike, and then went from there. And then I went back and raced in Australia last year on a superbike. So effectively, like Shane said, it's the same engine rules and everything really as a stock 1000 class here, but you're running on slicks, exactly what the superbike boys are running on here. So that's the one thing I had to learn, was coming back here riding on the smaller tyres, and obviously the harder tyres. So that's kind of where I've got that little bit more experience in what Shane has. Shane's got the experience of the tracks and stuff like that, so I can bounce off what he knows already when we get there. But then I've got the technique sort of maybe a little bit more perfected than what he has. So that's probably why you've seen my results have done that little bit better than him, purely because I've got that little bit more than he does in terms of experience.
How good would you be if you split up team wise next year? No, like different opportunities, and you're both mates, and you both take the best opportunity that pair you can get. But say you get a superbike offer and you want to stay at stock 1000, would you be gutted a little bit? You would be.
From my side, I don't think I would be particularly. Like, obviously, for me,
we're going to break up a friendship here, aren't we?
Friendship.
That was it. The round one. That was gone.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Have you had any moments like sort of?
Honestly, this whole time we've been racing, we've been like rivals, but like good mate rivals. Like we raced for the Supersport Championship back at home in 2017, and it literally...
Who won that?
I did.
Yeah,
It came down to...
I didn't see that.
It came down to the last race, and Shane had it all but in the bag and had a big moment, ended up in the gravel trap and stacked it. So it was like he literally gave it to me. So it was like a poor bastard, fell second again. So that we've had that rivalry, but it was a dude, congratulations, and we've always been like that. Always like,
there's always that
every time he won or I won,
it
was like I went and I got the lap record at his home track. So then the next time we went racing at my home track, he broke my lap record, and I was like, "You bastard!" So we've just
you can't just feed off each other.
Yeah,
and it is a different dynamic now, being out of the same garage. Like you're working together to progress together, rather than obviously sort of using each other to keep building on your own.
Yeah.
But
I tell you what, all our listeners that be looking like for your future careers, they're thinking they're on different teams. Oh, it's going to get tasty. But seriously, don't bring any more New Zealand people. Let's just stay.
No promises.
No promises. Good lad.
Yeah.
So we'll also do a PlayStation game. I don't know have you listened to the podcast before?
I have a couple, yeah.
I'm in Slack. I haven't had a lot of time, so I'll just say that. But I would like to listen to some more anyway.
He's too busy vlogging.
It's Sector 4 on the TT game,
shit.
and so we've got a bit of a leaderboard going on. Let's just get the thingy sorted.
This is where you see what I mean about my technique's just not quite there yet.
And just for the noise, by the way, people can hear the rain and also the aeroplanes. We're just down at Donington
Bunch
Park.
of slags coming back from Magaluf.
we're down at Donington Park for the BSB.
They're the ones you flew in.
No, they fly away from me.
Today's action's actually being cancelled with the weather, so hence why we should actually be racing right now, but we're sat talking on the podcast. So if one of you grab the thingy, and if you press square to restart, and then
pressure's on.
During which Dom will fire some quick fire questions to try and put you off.
Jeez, you won't need much to put me off.
Your best bit, stay quiet for all the break.
So we didn't actually get around to aspirations for next year. Would you like to go Superbike or just another year in Superstock?
If the right opportunity comes up, for sure, I would take that opportunity to go Superbikes. Purely not because I don't feel like I've got more to learn, but while I've got the ball rolling, doing so well, I think I could only do more. Again, like just keep getting better while I'm learning, and then obviously a Superbike ride presents so many more opportunities. So, but otherwise, like the team that we've been with, and Shane wouldn't stay with them a second year if they weren't good. But these guys are awesome. Like they're just a laid back family who just love racing, and it's like James is such a knowledgeable dude. He's been around the paddock for such a long time, and then obviously,
I used to race for James
Yeah.
back in 2014, I think. So.
Is that the Haribo
we
days?
probably weren't
Yeah,
even
exactly.
racing yet. So
Anyway, let's get to it, son. Hit the
Righto.
start button. There we go.
So-
I've got actual no questions at all.
I got a question. How come you're not on the game?
How am I not on the game? I'm not quick enough. That's that's the blunt side of it. There we go. Oh my god.
He's not on it.
He's got this under control. He's
Well,
actually
for
got this
now,
under control.
this
There
is
we go.
my turn. Here we go. She's all over.
Mm.
Boy,
Oh,
there
he's
we
got
go.
the front.
I saw it coming.
Oh my god.
Those
So did-
curbs are not very fun, are they?
Did you meet your missus at the through the racing, or was that from home? Or
From home at motocross. So obviously that's my background. I started motocross when I was about 3 years old. We've been riding dirt bikes, so hence why we sort of start road racing so much later. That's the sport that we took up, me and my brother, and then I met my girlfriend. 2013 I think it was. I met her at a club day motocross, and we met each other there.
Does
and,
she
and-
ride?
Yeah,
Motocross?
motocross
Sorry.
as well. So
No wonder you're still together. There you go.
Please
Yeah,
be clear,
she
please
rides
be,
back.
Be more clear, mate. She raced motocross, hence why she was there. I'm doing really bad, aren't I? And then she actually, here we go.
Does that ever happen on the job with a girlfriend?
He's
A mic drop. I'm out. Boom.
I thought you just meant the
Oh,
flop.
yeah, there's a question. You're about to get passed by an absolute New Zealand legend.
Settle.
A New Zealand legend, Bruce
Yeah.
Anstey. Have
Yeah.
you met him? Have you done anything? That's like I know it's a big
funny.
place.
You
New
guys are
Zealand,
more
isn't it?
likely to meet him because he hasn't been in New Zealand for probably 10 years.
Really? Oh, there we go.
It's been a long time since he's been home, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, so he's pretty much an Englishman now. So
what about the other Kiwis? Do you
How many are
get
there?
any advice from any of the Kiwis that have been over here racing?
to be honest, it's been so long since we've had
Yeah.
any real Kiwis racing over in England. There's not really other than you're looking 20 years ago or something like that. You might have had some dudes racing around here. So there's not been a whole lot of that sort of advice. So we're pretty much.
I think it's the kind of thing, if you were to go and ask, they'd be more than willing to help.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Aye.
I'll just take a picture.
Take a picture of his time, and I can honestly say that was crap. That
That
was
was
fantastic.
That was awful.
That
Wasn't
was
it?
fantastic, mate. That's what it's about.
Sub 2 minute, that's alright.
Yeah.
So what was it? A 1:59.
Do you prefer the wet or
Right
the
shade.
dry? If you had to pick a race condition.
Obviously prefer dry, but end of the day, I'm not phased. If it's wet, it's wet. It's the same for everyone. So, same for
Because
this
you get your
weekend.
specialists,
You
don't
know-
you? You don't-
yeah,
no,
you
no.
do.
And say a specialist, it's just confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's 100%
Yeah.
confidence. Like,
Yeah.
you just think, oh, I'm minting the wet, and you
Yeah.
can just see that in their eyes, and they just
When it
go like the
rains,
clappers.
they're like,
Or there's guys
That's
who
it.
are just like, I'm just going to lay it out there. I really don't give a damn. And it's just like, not me. That's not for me. I'm going to go and ride to my limit. And that's pretty much, and I'll build on that confidence, and then the limit will get better. But you get so many of those, like you said, wet specialists. But they're not really a wet specialist. They're just lunatics in my eyes.
The whole sport's full of lunatics.
Yeah.
But what about you,
Yeah.
Shane?
Um,
In the wet?
So,
Well, you
I
are
always
you
thought
are
I was
now a
okay,
dad, I suppose.
in New Zealand I was always alright in the wet, and same in America, I did well in the wet. I don't know whether that's just because they don't ride in the wet that often there. But then come over here and you get up against, the Irish and all them that ride in the rain all the time. And last year we had 2 wet races, and to be fair, my pace in the race wasn't lap time wise, I could have won. Practice sessions and stuff, I was always.
Start. We're talking while you're playing.
Is that not, do you not want that
Oh
one?
shit! I.
But yeah, no, I definitely do find it. I wouldn't call myself a wet weather specialist over here, that's for sure. I think I've done well at it in other places, but I think same as everything, the depth, the talent in the field in those conditions is higher here as well. So,
Damon, what's been your favourite race this year?
Donington would have to
First
be.
round.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually, Silverstone was probably a close second. Obviously, I didn't get on the podium, but I definitely had the pace to be on the podium had I been maybe put in better situations throughout the races. But
By the way, Chrissy, I'm very proud of what you're doing here. You're distracting him so Shane can do better. There's no second place here this time, Sunshine.
Let's just back to that teamwork thing we were talking about
I was
earlier.
about to say that's it. Right, let's try to go back to upsetting you then. So it's a case of you are.
Can tell I don't need the distraction.
I know, but we're all fully aware that you are punching. So how the hell did you land that smoking blonde hottie of having to go on? Was it the teeth? Was it the tan? Was it the tits? What? How did you get it done, son?
I don't even know, to be honest with you.
You do, man.
Oh no, I really don't know, because when
we're just a bunch of lads in a trailer, you might as well share your secrets. You share data. I want to know how you've done that. Let the lad share your knowledge.
I first met her when she was with obviously the late Billy Redmayne. When
Yes.
he came over to New Zealand in end of 2016, I think they
That
came
was
over.
for the Cemetery Road
For
race,
the Suzuki series, for the Cemetery Circuit. And I met the pair of them then. And obviously, like, you know, I took a liking to her in a way that you think, like, you know, she's a nice girl and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
And then...
This is a very serious conversation while you're still about to absolutely smoke there. We'll have to get that answer another time. There we go.
You did better than you have all afternoon, mate.
There we go.
That's the distraction. I stopped concentrating.
Say you are. Well, you're rubbish at this game, which is fantastic. There we go. I'm more than disgusting at this game, but there we go. There we go. Back to the cameras. There you go. He's sorting that.
What do you have, like a proper leaderboard of everyone who's done
I think who's been the fastest, Dom?
I have no idea.
Dom keeps it. It was Rutter, but then
Rutter?
You'd hope though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I can't remember who beat it. But I think that about wraps things up.
That's it. Oh no. One more. Right. So basically, one more question before we let you go. What is the absolute dream for the pair of you then? Because you've done absolutely everything so far, and you're doing it brilliantly well. So where would your absolute dream be? MotoGP, Worlds, I'm talking anything. Cars, any what's your absolute dream, lads?
I think across a few things at the minute. Obviously, the highest I can climb, you know, in the racing is obviously awesome. If I get to a world championship level, would be wicked. I've also started up my own little business as well. So if I could, you know, if that was successful enough to the point where you can just enjoy yourself, you know, I think that would be the dream for me, to be able to create a nice family for, you know, my newly made family. Just be able to create opportunities for my children, and, you know, the same opportunities that we've been given, to be able to keep passing that on, and you know, to be able to do it without stress, so to speak. If I can sort of build myself to that level, it's an all-round package in life. If I could just be comfortable, is a dream
definitely
for me.
The most mature answer, wasn't it?
He's a dad, that's why.
Thank God you said that. That was deep. That, you know. Please tell me you're going to give me an answer like something totally daft. Come on,
he's going to the moon.
I want to work for NASA.
To be honest, I mean, the dream is always you want to be racing in a world championship. You're a kid, and that's all you want to be. Especially if you're around motorbikes your whole life. It's like you look at GPs, you look at World Superbikes. That's like the pinnacle if you're a road racer. So it's like that's the dream, you know. So like it's something I will always chase and am chasing. But you know, like I said, I just want to keep the dream that I've got going. You know, I want to keep it going as long as possible and keep racing at the other end of the world and around the world if it comes to that. So yeah.
Fantastic, man.
I got to say, at this point though, we are technically living the dream, aren't we? In terms of, if you were to ask us that like 4 or 5 years ago, what the dream would be, it'd be to go overseas racing at a decent level.
Under the world famous DJ, like a DJ.
The amount of times we've spoken to each other about, like, dude, like 3 years ago, would you have thought we'd be racing like same team on the other side of the world in England, like just living and doing things, and like, you know, probably even 5 years ago, like thinking of like not being around your parents for so long, like, because you're racing, as you know, like it's family, like your family's always at every race meeting or supports your racing, and it's just like you're doing things on your own effectively. So it's like it's so different, but like you wouldn't even think that could have been, you know, a reality come now. So
do your family keep in touch with the race and like live timing and on the TV?
Yeah.
Sitting
they just went out for bread and milk and never came home.
Yeah, my folks, they set an alarm to watch every session and stuff like that live and everything, and obviously when the races are on at home they'll watch them. So
I think half of New Zealand gets up too still, don't
half
they?
of New
Just
Zealand,
to follow
yeah. So like it's pretty cool, like for New Zealanders. It's been such a long time since I've had two successful Kiwis racing on the other side, well, especially in England anyways, to like get in behind. So like it's pretty cool that we've got a really huge following, because everyone at home's like amped. They want to see all of us Kiwis just to do so well. So and I think for a long time everyone at home's known that Shane and I are like the rising talents. Like the amount of time it took for us to adapt and be in a competitive stage in our road racing careers, and we're only in sort of our third and something championship, third year racing, and we were on the podium at races. So it was like, it doesn't happen too often when you hadn't really done any road racing prior to that. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. We get so many Kiwis who just love it.
That's fair play, lads, and well done.
And for people listening, if they want to keep in touch with you, give your social medias a plug, and where can be, obviously YouTube vlog, but go on.
You better give us a mention, by the way.
We'll have to. I'll pop it in.
I just got a Facebook page. It's my name, Shane Richardson, but
awesome.
Sadly I'm not very great at actually updating things.
That's why
I wouldn't say that's my strong point. So.
It's all good, man.
What about yourself?
I've got Damon Rees 92 Facebook page, and then I've got my I've got my Instagram page, just again Damo Rees 92. I'm pretty sure it was last I checked. and then I've got my vlog that obviously is on YouTube, which is just Damon Rees Kiwi Invasion of the BSB. So.
No, fantastic.
Yeah, so,
fantastic. Any sponsors you want to give us a quick shout out for before we pack things up? Go for it.
Go ahead.
Well,
first, mate.
Yeah, obviously the first one, the big one, Carl Cox, for really helping us get over here and things like that. And then like for me, personal sponsors, Winery Joinery from back home, and obviously RST and Shoei and all the product guys, and all the supporters out there that are just willing to help you out and put in bits here and there where they can, and really just make up the difference to allow us to be here and keep chasing the dream. So thank you guys. Yeah,
I guess I've got quite a few. I've been really fortunate to pick up quite a few nice people who have come along the way and sort of given you some money here and there. And obviously the number one is Carl Cox. He's been the number one supporter of this season and stuff like that, but also been lucky to have smaller ones that are there. Like I've got Aaron Slight, who's a sponsor as well. Everyone sort of knows that dude, so he's sort of been that mini mentor. Like, you're going to Alton next. Just sort of, I raced the touring cars around there in 2000 or something like that, and it's just like, I watched this turn. And so it's just like, been pretty fortunate to have a dude so knowledgeable to sort of just tell you little things here and there just before you even turn up to the racetrack. So it's pretty cool to have a dude like him. Gilmore Homes down in Christchurch and Wanganui, Timaru Metal Cyclers, and Mum and Dad, and all the other smaller supporters and stuff like that. So like every little bit counts when you're this far away from home. So just to keep us going, it's like like I said, every dollar counts to keep us at home, keep us over here living our dreams. So yeah, spot on.
The worst thing is you're going to leave this interview going, I forgot to mention this and this. But everyone, we do it all the time.
That's every speech, isn't it? You do when you're standing in front of a crowd.
Oh, crap. But no, everyone knows who supports you, and they'll be over the moon with you. And but thank you very much for coming on the show.
I think we'll do two races tomorrow, so best of luck in both races.
Yeah.
And wet or dry. And we'll catch up sometime soon. But thanks very much for coming on the show, lads, and take care.
Cheers, lads. See you in a bit.
Thank you.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester, Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chersin, the Racing.
So a big thanks to the lads for coming on and for sparing a bit of time while we're sitting out waiting for the BSB to make a decision whether we're going to race or not. And but no, great crack and sort of a different perspective to racing. Imagine sort of packing your bags and leaving all your family to go halfway across the world.
And imagine being able to go to DJ Carl Cox's pie. There's a couple of tickets. The people they're going to be hanging around with, and deservedly so. Like, I definitely want to go for a pint with them. It would be min crack.
Like you said before the interview, obviously Damo smashed himself up in the race, so sending our best wishes to him. I hope he's all right.
And obviously good luck Shane for being a dad, and Hannah, you know what I mean? So congratulations to pair of you. But there we go. So I'll tell you who we did bump into on the evening. The world's poshest motorcycle racer, Tom Ward. My God, that lad makes you laugh, doesn't he? What a lad! Because what happened to him? Was it in practice? He had a bit of a tumble. I think it was quite a big one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think it was crane a curve, so any crash at crane is a decent one.
It's going to be a portion in it.
There was a few other. There was a big injury for Bradley Ray. He had to have stitches.
Jesus.
And which meant Ian Hutchinson actually stepped into race from over the weekend.
No. Let's go into that. Apparently, the chain came off,
and it's come round and hit the top of his thigh on his left leg. So if you think you're sitting on a motorcycle, hands on your bars, and your legs are really high up, nowhere near, so the chain level is by your ankle. And you think the sheer savagery of like that chain snap to come up and over, it's punctured his levers and it's burst open like a hernia, so the muscles popped out and like pushed back in. So like it wasn't like he's broken a nail, you know, he's fully opened up his leg. And I'm
so another one sending best wishes.
Yeah,
to him
totally.
as well.
We're just kind of ticking through the list here, aren't we? But no, Brad, like, look, that could have been a lot worse considering the main arteries that run down your leg there. Anyway, but no, obviously get well soon.
He is funny, Tom, and he.
Oh, he's a hell of a lad, Tom. Like he
was telling us about these, like tobacco. He doesn't do them just for the for the record, but he was telling us about these tobacco things you put in your
like chewing tobacco.
Your gums. You put them in your gums. I can't remember. They're called snoods or something.
Something like that.
And
they're not illegal, by the way.
We're not 20 times stronger than. Oh, sorry. They're the same as having the tobacco of 20 fags, I think.
In one hit.
Yeah, and you put them on your gums and it basically like burns your gums. But I think a lot of the lads that are not from England, I think are...
I thought... Just...
I wouldn't drop anyone in. I don't know...
They're not illegal.
No, but I don't know specific riders that do them, but I think... I'm saying that. I think Colin Edwards is into them, but...
We don't know. We'll have to ask him.
But yeah, I think Tom was saying apparently they're like full on burn like a hole, and he was saying
but that's it. That's like smoking that though. It depends how much you use them, but it's like having, you can get energy like chewing gum now. Like, it's like 6 times stronger than a Red Bull or something like that.
Really?
Oh, aye, it's like it's an energy chewing gum, but it's just concentrated caffeine. You know what I mean? It's like, you ever
Is that your secret?
Not bollocks, is it, man? You know what I mean? I'm the warning label on Red Bull. Don't give to pregnant people and people sensitive to caffeine. I'm horrendously sensitive to caffeine. Shock horror. But no, it's like, have you ever had? You wouldn't, but have you ever heard of a thing called snuff?
I've heard of it.
Snuff. It's basically like tobacco, but it's like a brown pit, like, you know, airways chewing gum. Right, basically you put it on the back of your hand and you like sniff it in, right? Honestly, it's massive with the Germans. They love it. And like, I was out in the Isle of Man, we were in Quids in, and this German, do you want to have a go at this? I'm like, off this huge hairy bike. I was like, Jesus, Jackie. My face was on fire. It was absolutely class, but it's just... All it is, it's just like the same as adding any drink, you know. I'd like snooze. I've never actually heard that terminology, but
I might have just made that up. I'm not sure.
I don't know what they are, but you know, it doesn't matter.
It's weird though that it's so popular in loads of other countries.
Well,
like I know in
it's like Amsterdam, you can smoke weed.
I think Scandinavia, it's really popular over there, and it's popular with, I think, like the Aussies and that are into it. But
yeah, so what do you got tied up for the rest of the week?
Well, because we had the engine fully stripped,
yes.
I'm not sure what's going to happen with if we're putting that engine back in or if we're getting another engine to put in. I'm not sure, but whatever happens, we'll be going to the final race of the season. I would like to get out on the bike before then, just to make sure everything's been put back together correctly. And there's actually a few things that I want to try on the bike as well before we go to Brands. So ideally,
lots of bloody buttons on that thing, innit?
Yeah, ideally, if I can get out on track sometime before next weekend, that would be perfect. So I'll see if I can get out at the weekend. But other than that, just working away. Hopefully, get another podcast in next weekend, and just keeping busy. What about yourself?
Well, I've got a miserable day lined up tomorrow.
What's
miserable day. Well, basically, I'm working with a lad who's just he's just sucking the fun out. He's just absolutely sucking the fun out of life, right? He just keeps talking about his sex drive, Chrissy, like all the time. Like, I mean, he just what I mean is like he's horny. He's just talking about the lack of it. Like he has no sexual intentions at all. He's just like life is. He's just an absolute killjoy. But I tell you what, we were working out at the back end of Stanley. You know, like where Sugar Tits lives, so he's on the far side of that. And we're going to the local butcher's, right? And what we see so we're looking at the menu, and we saw cheese rolls, 10 pence, sausage rolls, £1, and underneath that, hand jobs, a tenner. I'm going, shut up, man. And our Stanley's all about we're having a good time, but I couldn't believe what I was reading here. So anyway, this blonde comes out, mind. My God, stunning. stunning, mate. It was a full factory chassis. I mean, Jesus, it was outstanding. This thing comes round. So anyway, there's me immediately in with a question going, excuse me, I've just been looking at the menu and I couldn't help but read, but like hand jobs for 10 quid. I said, are you the one with the hand jobs? She goes, yeah, that's me. And before I even get a word in, my mate butts in and goes, well, Gan, wash your hands. I want 2 sausage rolls. Yeah, I told you it was crap. Well, on that note, thank you to all our patrons who will now be probably pulling back on their support for the show, and Colchester Kawasaki, who will probably be dropping the sponsorship from now on after that joke. But yeah.
Second that. Huge thanks to all of our patrons, and massive thank you to Colchester Kawasaki. And we'll put the Seropian CBD oil competition, freebie on the social media. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And when I get some time, I'll put that little video together of you cross racing, because I've got your crash film, so that's going on.
Oh no!
But thanks for listening, and take care. We'll be back next week with a podcast. So take care and see you soon.
See you in a bit, son.
Click, buy, deliver with the 2-time Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year, Colchester Kawasaki. Proud sponsors of Chasing the Racing.